Hey, scholars. So here is an assignment question for the week, and let me explain to you how I got there. This is sort of how I alluded to in my email over the weekend. We're still learning how to teach the class the right way, and I apologize that you could experiment on a little bit, but we're trying to, again, continue to make this the best possible thing for you and then for students going forward. And I think as I set things up, it was an example of maybe not necessarily eyes bigger than stomach, uh, but we have these grand ideas of what we want to accomplish, and we shoot for the moon. And I think I'm pushing a little too much on a couple of things, and not enough on some other stuff. And for that reason, I think for the rest of the semester, rather than doing two big projects, I would like to do one. Um, and there are a number of reasons for that. For you, like, well, I don't want to stress you out because there's this idea that if we've got two big things that we're working on, that we may not put as much effort into each one because we've got to divide our attention out. But also, from the standpoint of me analyzing my audience, because I do ask you to think about your audience when you're putting together ideas, and I need to do the same when I'm putting together my own ideas. This is still kind of a fundamentals course. It's a 100 level class, 114, right? And to ask you to be doing a lot of big theory work on one of our projects and then like a lot of research on another, I think might just be an upper level course. And I'm thinking probably more of like a high 200, low 300 level class to do all this stuff. So for me, and hopefully also for you, I think we're just going to focus on one thing here for the rest of the semester. But I want to get your opinion on what we'd like to do. And I'm going to talk about the two project ideas I had and see what you think. So project one, and the one I think is most feasible, is sales, uh, the app sales project. And what I mean by app sales project, the application sales project, uh, if we take this route, what I would like you to do is to identify an application that goes onto a cellular device. So any number of there's not any number of things that we can do that. And right now, all of you probably have cell phones. It would actually be very strange if you did not in the place we come from, because I believe we've gotten to a point where 98.3% of people within your age range do own cellular devices. So what I want you to do is identify an application that goes onto a cell phone that solves a problem for your classmates. Now, that problem's not going to be something like, I know you're bored, so let's download this fun game where we launch birds at pigs. Or, oh, I know you're bored, so Kim Kardashian's game where she helps you identify awesome fashion. Come on. Uh, Identify a real problem. Not that boredom isn't a real problem, but identify a real problem that maybe is affecting everybody. So things like you have problems with concentration, or we think a little bit more about how mental health is an issue, or that I would like you to be more healthy, or stress, like any number of these things. And find us an app that we can download onto our phones that's simple, that's cheap, as in probably free, but maybe like a small dollar incursion, and show us how it solves that problem. Uh, when you do this, we would want again another PowerPoint, and I think you're getting the idea of how to put those together now based on what I've seen. And then you'll present for yourself this time. It's not going to be somebody else presenting, because the reason I wanted you to put that together for somebody else in the last speech was because then you're forced to really think about what should go into it that's going to help somebody else, and now you know what goes into that, and it's going to be easier for you to put together something for yourself. The other idea was forgive me for just a second, I'm sorry. I wanted to do an assessment project. An assessment's actually very helpful in business and in professional settings. This helps us identify best practices or what's going wrong. And what we would have done with this was to identify something we wanted to study. And my thought was something actually within academia. So, for instance, I know it feels a little like I'm rambling right now, but I hope I'm not. I hope I'm actually making good sense. You can tell me that later. For instance, let's say we wanted to study what are the major speeches that somebody uses in a professional speaking class. So what we would do is we would find a list of universities across the country. I would get everybody 10 of those universities. And your job would be to figure out who teaches the equivalent of this class, so COM 114, at each of these universities. Email that person with a set of questions, things like what are the major speeches you give? Why do you give those? What results do you get out of them? And we compile all that data, and you write a small paper about it, explaining what you found, and then you give a presentation about what you found. And then I take all that data and put it into a bigger paper. I'll explain that here in just a moment. But usually when we do assessment, that's more of an advanced course thing. And I'm not opposed to doing it here with this class, but I do feel like that takes more time, and it doesn't necessarily end up being as much fun as far as the research and the presentation goes. And I am concerned about that as well. Now, here's sort of the end goal of an assessment project like that, though. And it's an interesting different carrot to toss in front of you. I want to take all that data, continue the work. I contact as many instructors as we can to get that data set. I'll compile it into a larger paper, and I'm going to try and get that published. And then everybody that helped out on that would have a publication credit. So that's interesting too. But what I'm thinking maybe would be better is this: if we did this over the summer or the fall, and anybody that wanted to do it can volunteer, and it would just be something that you did outside of class that would give you an interesting writing credit on your resume or academic vita. So the question for you in this assignment is, and I know I took a long time getting to it, I'm sorry, but the question is, what do you want to do here with our time remaining this semester? Do you want to do this application sales speech, or would you like to do the assessment paper? And why? What do you think you're going to get the most of right now? What do you think you're most interested in? And if you would prefer to do the sales speech, are you interested in working on this assessment project with me later, maybe over the summer or next fall? So, in the space provided here, could you give me an answer there? Please, a good paragraph or two. Give me some really good, make an argument out of it, and let me know what you think. Thank you.